Welcome to This Explainer. Have you ever really stopped to wonder about the absolute limits of loyalty? Well, today we're looking at a story that completely redefines what it actually means to wait for someone. This is The Soldier Who Kept His Promise. And I gotta tell you, it's a profound, almost mysterious look at a bond that defies logic, it defies time, and yeah, it even defies the sheer tragedy of war. I'm absolutely thrilled to guide you through this one, so let's just jump right in. The military dog hadn't barked in 4 years. Just take a second to really let the weight of that silence sink in. For a working military dog, barking is communication, it's emotion, it's literally their life. But for this dog, for 4 long years, there was nothing but complete, unbroken silence. Four full years. Every single morning, without fail, this dog walked to the exact same gate at his army base, sat down, and just waited. Through changing seasons, through the endless comings and goings of troops, he just sat there, waiting. Which, of course, naturally brings us to a huge central question. Who was he waiting for? Because to the rest of the world, and to literally every other soldier stationed on that base, the person this dog was waiting for was gone. They all firmly believed the soldier was dead. So, what unseen tether kept this dog at that gate, day after day? Section 1. The Unbreakable Bond, Max and Staff Sergeant Ethan Carter. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it breaks down their dynamic. To understand this silent sentinel, we kind of have to look back. Max was a fearless Belgian Malinois serving alongside the U.S. Army, and his job was to detect hidden explosives. He was the literal front line of defense as they navigated incredibly dangerous missions in Afghanistan together. And his handler, Staff Sergeant Ethan Carter, he trusted Max with his very life. Before the tragedy struck, these two fearless companions were, well, they were best friends. It wasn't just a soldier and a dog. It was a highly specialized, absolutely vital survival team. And this dynamic, it was anchored by a very specific, quiet ritual. Before every single mission, Ethan would get down on his knees right beside Max and whisper, "No matter what happens, we'll make it home together." That wasn't just some reassuring whisper. It was a crucial, binding promise between two soldiers. Section 2, the day everything changed. An operation gone wrong. So here's how it all fell apart. In an instant, a massive explosion violently shakes the valley. Mere seconds later, thick smoke completely covers the battlefield, creating just total chaos and confusion. In the minutes that follow, as rescue teams frantically arrive, Ethan goes missing. And through it all, Max is desperately searching through the rubble. He absolutely refuses to leave. Their bond is so intensely strong that the other soldiers physically have to pull a desperate fighting Max away from the blast site. So, what actually happens to a loyal dog when half of his team just vanishes? Well, back at the military base, the aftermath was immediate, and honestly, it was heartbreaking. Max stopped playing, he stopped barking entirely, and instead he adopted this new, lonely mission, walking to the front gate every single morning. He became a silent, waiting sentinel. Section 3. 4 years of waiting. The silent vigil. Days became months. The rest of the base had to move on. Everyone else firmly believed Ethan had died in that massive explosion in the valley. The world kept turning, and hope had completely faded for everyone. And then, months became years. But despite what the rest of the base believed, despite the crushing silence and that empty road ahead, Max never stopped believing. Never. He held on to that promise whispered before the missions. Okay, let's dive into this climax. Section 4, the rainy afternoon reunion, the arrival of the van. I really want you to vividly picture the sensory details of this scene. It's a rainy afternoon, 4 long years after the explosion. Slowly, a military van pulls up and comes to a complete stop outside that very gate. The man who steps out of that van, he's using a prosthetic leg. He's relying heavily on a cane just to stand up. His body, his face, they carried the severe visible scars of war. The physical toll of those last 4 years was just immense. But despite all of that physical trauma, his voice remained completely unchanged. The man looks at the dog and softly whispers, "Max." Just that one word. And right then, Max's ears lifted.
He completely froze, hearing that unchanged voice cut instantly through 4 years of absolute silence. Max suddenly snaps out of his freeze and sprints across the road faster than anyone on the base had ever seen him move. He literally launches himself into the air, jumping directly into Ethan's arms. Max was crying, he was whining, relentlessly licking Ethan's face. The dog, who hadn't made a single sound in 4 years, was suddenly exploding with pure joy. The impact of this was so powerful that even the hardened soldiers standing nearby, they couldn't hold back their tears watching this reunion. Section 5. A promise finally kept. But wait, our explainer isn't over yet, because the biggest surprise was still coming. As Max is wrapped up in his arms, Ethan slowly reaches down into his pocket and he pulls out Max's old military dog tag. This was the exact identification tag that had been ripped off and lost during that massive explosion in the valley 4 years prior. Just think about the incredible significance of finding and securing this tiny piece of metal amidst the absolute rubble of a war zone. And this brilliantly illustrates Ethan's parallel loyalty. Carried through every surgery, every hospital room, and every painful recovery, Ethan held on to this piece of Max through years of unimaginable trauma. While Max was waiting patiently at the gate, Ethan was fighting his way back, holding on to that tag as a physical symbol of his promise to return. So, what does Ethan do? He gently clips it right back onto Max's collar. It is a deeply tender, tactile moment of resolution. Max just rests his head heavily against Ethan's chest, as if he had been waiting his entire life just to get to this specific moment. And then Ethan smiles, and he whispers, "I told you I'd come home." Just let that sink in. The promise from years ago in Afghanistan, finally fulfilled against all odds. We'll end our explainer today with this thought-provoking question. Are the strongest promises spoken by people or kept by a loyal dog who never stops believing? It really makes you rethink the nonverbal nature of true loyalty, doesn't it? This story of Max and Ethan shows us that a promise isn't just words, it's an unbreakable connection. Thank you so much for joining me to explore this incredible source material and keep reflecting on the power of belief. See you next time.